Imagine one of history's most gruesome torture devices was specifically designed to mutilate a woman's body. We're not talking about simple stocks. We're talking about instruments of agony that turned basic human rights into a terrifying spectacle. Make sure to subscribe right now, because we're peeling back the centuries to expose the chilling truth about how societies used fear and pain to enforce control and silence against women. Before we dive into the nightmare, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. The past is more than grand victories and collapsing empires. It's also a deeply unsettling documentation of humanity's darkest instincts, especially in how justice systems were twisted to punish and silence women. For ages, the inventive brutality of authorities turned the female form into a public stage for upholding power and punishing nonconformity. From the searing heat of pyres to contorted metal instruments crafted for public shaming, these penalties weren't just random acts of violence. They were authoritative declarations of absolute control, crushing any spirit that dared to resist. This video reveals some of the most appalling punishments women were forced to endure. Stay with us to explore these harrowing methods, each one a stark reminder of the corrosive mix of fear, power, and misogyny. Burning at the stake remains one of history's most recognizable and excruciating fates. Popular during the Middle Ages, this death sentence targeted women primarily accused of witchcraft, heresy, or moral transgressions. The execution became a gruesome public spectacle, intended not just to inflict immense pain, but to serve as a terrorizing demonstration of the consequences of opposing religious or social edicts. Women were disproportionately chosen for this ultimate penalty, often used as scapegoats during times of communal crisis like plague or famine, when paranoia ran rampant. The accused was shackled to a wooden post surrounded by fuel, left to be consumed by agonizing fire before massive, hostile audiences. A famous victim was Joan of Arc, the young French commander condemned for heresy in 1431. Her confessor, Jean Massue, recorded her final request: "Hold the cross high so I may see it through the flames." Authorities claimed the fire would cleanse the soul or protect the community from evil. However, it was truly a mechanism for reinforcing entrenched power structures and eliminating dissenters. It's a brutal monument to how fear, control, and hatred of women intersected, leaving a tragic legacy of injustice that starkly illustrates the immense price of public paranoia and intolerance. The scold's bridle, or brank, was a particularly cruel apparatus used in early modern England and Scotland to forcibly silence women deemed overly argumentative, gossipy, or rebellious. This iron cage completely encased the head, featuring a sharp metal plate jammed into the mouth to prevent any speech, frequently causing grievous injury. A woman subjected to this device wasn't just muted. She was subjected to profound public humiliation. Many branks were embellished with grotesque features like devil horns to further mock the wearer, transforming them into walking objects of ridicule as they were marched through towns. Historian William Harrison called the device a tool to correct unruly tongues, clearly reflecting a broader societal effort to enforce compliance and total submission. The brand was engineered to destroy the woman's spirit as completely as it hurt her body. The ducking stool, used in medieval England and colonial America, targeted women accused of being scolds, witches, or engaging in immoral conduct. This punishment involved securing the woman into a large wooden chair attached to a long arm, which was then used to plunge her repeatedly into a river or pond. Far from mere correction, it was a public theater of shame and domination. Women were often thrown into cold, filthy water, facing risks like hypothermia, serious injury, or even drowning as the repeated ordeal pushed them to their limits. Symbolically, this mirrored the ancient trial by water rituals where innocence meant sinking and guilt meant floating, a terrifying double bind that often proved fatal. Crowds would gather to mock and jeer, amplifying the public disgrace layered onto the already grueling physical process. The ducking stool was not just physical agony. The breast ripper, or iron spider, stands out as one of the most gruesome and specifically gendered punishments inflicted during the medieval and early modern eras. This terrifying instrument was explicitly designed to disfigure women, primarily those accused of adultery, sacrilege, or witchcraft. The device consisted of several fierce metal claws that were either heated to a searing temperature or used cold to brutally tear away the victim's breasts. This process was not only excruciatingly painful but served as a horrific public exhibition intended to deeply shame the women and deter anyone else from challenging societal authority. The Spanish donkey, also called the wooden horse, was a terrifying medieval device that perfectly symbolizes the brutal extent of penalties inflicted upon women accused of flouting social standards. The tool featured a sharp, triangular wooden beam upon which the victim was forcefully mounted and made to straddle. Heavy weights were then shackled to the victim's ankles, intensifying the downward force on their body and driving the sharp wooden beam deep into the flesh. This inflicted relentless pain, causing severe lacerations and often permanent physical harm. This gruesome technique was deployed during the Spanish Inquisition and by other authoritarian regimes, frequently targeting women accused of heresy, witchcraft, or sexual transgressions. The Pear of Anguish, or paraspinia, was a terrifying and deeply invasive torture instrument, earning its place among history's most horrific contraptions. Shaped like a segmented metal pear, this device was inserted into the victim's body, depending on the alleged offense, either into the mouth or, in profoundly violating terms, into other sensitive orifices. Once placed, the torturer would activate a screw mechanism, causing the metal segments to violently expand, tearing the surrounding tissue and causing unimaginable agony. The resulting internal damage was often catastrophic, with many victims enduring lifelong disabilities or even dying from their resulting wounds. The deployment of such a tool was focused as much on extreme humiliation as it was on physical suffering, targeting women's psychological and bodily integrity in a deeply invasive manner. While documentation of its widespread use is scarce, its very design demonstrates the perverse ingenuity of the cruelty used to dominate and silence women under the pretense of enforcing law. The iron chair, sometimes called the chair of torture, was a gruesome instrument built to inflict maximal suffering, especially on women accused of crimes like treason, adultery, or witchcraft. The seat, backrest, and armrests were embedded with hundreds of razor-sharp spikes. Victims were forcibly placed upon it, their bodies pressed hard against the spikes, while straps were ratcheted tight to prevent any movement. In some versions, the chair itself was deliberately heated, intensifying the ordeal as the metal spikes seared the skin. This punishment was intended to be as psychological as it was purely physical. Victims could be left immobilized on the chair for many agonizing hours. For many, the iron chair was not the endpoint, but a brutal step before execution, used to shatter the spirit and weaken the body before the final death blow. Records from the Inquisition confirm the iron chair's effectiveness in forcing and extracting confessions. The tortures endured by women across history stand as grim and haunting reminders of the fatal consequences of prejudice, fear, and unchecked power. These calculated acts of cruelty were far more than mere punishments. They were explicit tools of oppression designed to strip women of their dignity, silence their voices, and maintain absolute control. As we confront these dark periods, we are profoundly reminded of the incredible resilience of the human spirit and the continuous, vital necessity of championing a system of justice rooted in humanity and true equality. Make sure to subscribe to uncover more hidden histories, and let us know in the comments which city you're watching from.